changed the tempo just on the A4 and the no coast, which is really cool. Then, if I go here on the Octatrack and I change the tempo, changes everything. The vocal beats and stuff. It's kind of cool doing this setup. So I have the Octatrack controlling my Volca, my no coast, and my analog 4. I have the analog 4 using CV control voltage to manage my semi-modular no coast. The analog 4 is connected to the Octatrack MK2 over MIDI. I have MIDI, I believe MIDI in on the analog 4 connected to MIDI. So, and I can stop everything by pressing the one Octatrack button. So I've been trying to get all this integrated, and what I found is I have the Octatrack is like the brain of my whole studio. So I think I got this working pretty well. I couldn't get it all working before. So basically Octatrack, I have inputs, the main out going to my monitors, and then I have the inputs. So input A is going to the main out on my analog 4. And I color coded the cable so it's easy to tell what goes to what. And the no coast is connected through CV A and B on my analog 4. Then I have MIDI in, right here, MIDI in on my analog 4. MIDI in is going, let me fix this, MIDI in is going from my analog 4 to, I believe, MIDI through on my Octatrack. I wasn't sure if that was going to work because I hadn't tested it, and that's working well. And then I have MIDI out on my Octatrack going to MIDI in on my Volca, and that seems to be working good. And for the Volca, the headphone jack with a patch cable going to input C on my Elektron Octatrack. And then I have my setup, if I go to my mixers, I have my volume setup working pretty well. And then if I go to recording setup, so I have this setup which seems to work well. I haven't recorded anything with all these going at the same time, but that's another video. But this took me a while to figure out. There's a lot of moving pieces, but it's a really cool setup because it's a full studio. I can use so many things, and I still have 2 ports left, and I have a MIDI expander box. So I'm trying to figure out how I could add 2 more synthesizers to the mix. That would be pretty awesome to have possibilities to. Oops, sorry, I dropped that. To do that, and then if I press the play button, it starts again, which is really cool. So here. And I have to press play again on my analog 4 to get the analog 4 working. And what's cool is I can stop this, and if I want to listen to, I have the tracks, kick drum, the techno kick on my analog 4. So I have a lot of options here. And then I can always go back to my Volca beats. So I'm pretty happy with this setup because this allows me, that I'm not recording, I'm not sampling anything. This allows me to manage a lot of things. And I can go to my no coast and tweak it, or if I want to patch it or do something. Like, I love this thing. This is like my favorite synthesizer I bought. I like my mode, but this no coast, damn. I always get something different when I turn a knob. One knob, I get a completely different soundtrack. So I can stop it that way, or I can do this. So I can stop it from the analog 4. I gotta get a new camera. I'm probably gonna get a new video camera to fix this problem. Or I can go to my Octatrack. Interesting. Didn't stop it. Okay. I gotta figure that out. But I gotta stop it from the analog 4. But that's something I need to figure out, right? That's half the fun of all this gear. I had so many problems just getting the basics down on... Elektron is really complicated. I don't know why they make it complicated. It does a lot. But just getting the basics of the analog 4 down. I'm still learning analog 4. Getting the basics of the Octatrack and the Korg is probably the easiest to figure out. There's still a lot in the sequencer, step sequencer I'm learning on the Korg. Kind of cool how you can kind of mess with it. It's easier to use. And then the No Coast is a world of its own too. I'm just scratching the surface. So my advice is don't buy more than one piece of equipment at a time if you can help it. I just kind of thought I have time now to learn stuff, so I would get what I needed. That would last me for the entire next few years with my tax refund. So this kind of works out pretty good, and it's cheaper than buying a Eurorack. I was at a friend's house the other day, and he showed me his wall of Eurorack. He had probably about $50,000 to $100,000 worth of Eurorack gear, and I was like, wow. And it was cool, but I didn't really see. I mean, it was cool and all that. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of fun, but I've been playing stuff for a while, and I can get similar sounds without not spending that much money. And it takes up so much space, and its power bill must cost a fortune. But anyway, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's how I got it hooked up right now. It works pretty good. I'm trying to figure out how I can control the analog 4 from because it's controlling. See, when I press the play, and the trigs have the different trigs, right? So they have the different trigs, but this is the MIDI trig, right? So I'm trying to figure out, so track 1, what I have set. I don't really have anything set. I have to go through this and figure this out. But this is kind of what I'm trying to figure out. Octatrack is more complex than the analog 4. I'm finding out. So I have that working. And that's cool. I mean, it's going through. So that's kind of cool. But I'm trying to figure out, what I'm trying to figure out is how to get, okay, I have my analog 4 connected to my No Coast over CV, which is working great. What I'm trying to figure out is how to get my Octatrack to stop my analog 4. You get what I'm saying if I'm sequencing it? Because right now if I press play, it controls the Korg fine. Now the Korg is connected through MIDI in to MIDI out on my Octatrack, and my analog 4 is connected. Let me turn this off. My analog 4 I have connected from MIDI in on my analog 4 to, I believe, MIDI through on the analog, on the Octatrack. And the one thing I'm not sure about is if I should do MIDI out, because this is confusing, MIDI out to MIDI in on my Octatrack, if that would actually control it or not. That's something I need to try when I get some time. But that's one thing I'm trying to figure out, is the whole MIDI in, MIDI out thing. But anyways, feel free to subscribe. I hope you liked this video. I hope it gives you an idea of what Elektron gear can do. It's not the cheapest gear, and it's got a really quirky workflow system. But I find I can use it instead of my laptop with Ableton now. It's much more fun. I like it. I think it's a lot more fun. I'm not crazy about the menu diving and the setup, for connectivity with synthesizers is kind of a tricky proposition. But, I have the same problem with Ableton and Cubase. When I was hooking up Ableton on my laptop to my synthesizers, it was a process as well. So there is no magic connectivity. If someone invented that, they'd probably be rich. But anyways, I think this is a great setup. I just needed to figure out how I can control my Analog 4 from the Octatrack. If I can do that, I'd be really happy. But we could try something. Let's see, we're on MIDI through. Let's try going MIDI out to MIDI in, see what that does. It doesn't hurt to try something different. MIDI out to MIDI in. Let's see what that does. Shall we? Okay, so that didn't fix the problem. So I guess I'm not sure how to do that. I need to figure out, do some research and ask questions on the forums. How to control my Octatrack and my Analog 4. There must be a way to sequence it so that the Octatrack... See, what I'm trying to do is use the Octatrack to control everything in my studio. My Korg, my No Coast, my Analog 4, but at the same time I also want to be able to go into each synthesizer and tweak it so that I can manage it. But there's something I'm having trouble with. Right now, the signal chain I'm struggling with is between the Octatrack and Analog 4, because I had it hooked up. Right, that's cool. Oh, that's kind of a cool sound, just like so. One thing I mentioned in one of my videos, like when I was working on my Moog, the filter on the Moog affects a lot of the stuff. You can turn that one dial and change 100 sounds. On this, it's the same. So I think the pitch on their oscillator is kind of like a filter. And then you have slope and other stuff. I'll go through this in other videos. But that really changes a lot on the No Coast. Anyways, I hope you like this video. Definitely subscribe, and any questions or feedback, leave them for me. Thanks.